Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the preview for the 2024 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the final race of the season. Yes, we really are there already. Now, this isn't really my favourite race of the year, but that's probably partly to do with the fact it is the final race of the season and the new one seems a long way off. Not that the off-season is actually all that long these days, but of course I am still very much looking forward to this weekend and I hope the season goes out with a bang. But anyway, lots to get through in this final preview, so I'm just going to jump straight into it, starting with a look at the track and all the usual stats that follow. So last weekend, F1 was in Qatar, where Max Verstappen took his 9th win of the year. What a turnaround by Red Bull it was last weekend. But now it is on to Yas Marina for the 24th and final round of the 2024 season. A lap of the Yas Marina circuit is 5.281 kilometers long. That is, if you prefer, just over 3.28 miles, and is made up of 16 corners with 58 laps scheduled for Sunday's race. And the race at record, by the way, is held by Max Verstappen, who posted a 1:26.103 back in 2021. This time around, there will be 2 DRS zones in action to try and help drivers get some overtaking done. The first zone is down the very long straight between turns 5 and 6 with its detection point just after turn 4. And the second zone is between turns 8 and 9 with its detection point just after the chicane at turns 6 and 7. I think I say this pretty much every year, but DRS is absolutely spot on here in my opinion. One zone to help a driver pass and then a separate detection and zone immediately afterwards to give the overtaken driver a chance to fight back straight away. And let's face it, it will be that section where we see most overtaking happen, as the rest of the track is pretty tricky to pass on, although turn 5 has become an opportunity since the track was reprofiled ahead of the 2021 event. And last year, Max Verstappen cruised to yet another victory from pole position, his 19th win of the season, to lead home Charles Leclerc and George Russell, who took the final step on the podium. Now, Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen are the only 3 drivers to have taken back-to-back victories across the 15 races held over the years at Yas Marina. And 15 divided by 3 is 5, which just so happens to be the greatest number of wins at the track, which is held by Lewis Hamilton, a record Max Verstappen could equal this weekend. And as if that wasn't enough, the Dutchman has won each of the last 4 races at the circuit from pole position, meaning he could make it 5 in a row if he comes out on top in qualifying and the race this time around. And did you know 5 is also the number of dry tyre compounds across the whole Pirelli range? Oh yes, that is right folks. For one final time, it is tyre talk time once again. The compounds available for this one then are the softest in the Pirelli range, and so they are the hard C3, the medium C4 and the soft C5. So graining is set to be a big factor this weekend, and Pirelli says the forces and stresses the tyres are put through are on the low to moderate end of the scale due to the lack of high-speed corners. The track surface isn't massively abrasive either, but grip will be low, and so the track will improve as the weekend goes on and drivers lay down some rubber. And as is always the case with Yas Marina, it's also worth bearing in mind that only one of the 3 practice sessions, that is FP2, is really representative, as it is the only session that takes place at about the same time of the evening as qualifying and the race. Also worth noting that the undercut tends to be pretty powerful here, and with a lot of tyre management needed to make a one-stop work, a two-stopper is very much seen as the way to go. And that was the case last year, with race winner Max Verstappen starting on the mediums before switching to the hards on lap 16 and then to another set of hards on lap 43, which he ran to the end of the race. Almost the entire field pitting twice last season. As for the final few things worth a mention at this stage, the total pit lane loss time in 2023 was largely between 21 and 23 seconds. According to Aston Martin, the probability of the safety car making an appearance is 30%, with 5 races featuring at least one over the years. And of course, the weather could play its part in strategy, but don't expect a Brazil-style wet race or anything quite as bonkers as that, as incredible as that would be. But it will perhaps unsurprisingly be a warm and dry weekend, and as ever, the latest forecast as of Thursday morning is on screen for you to have a look at right now. And your schedule for this one is very close to the sort of thing you'd see during the European season, so it is mostly morning and afternoon for us here in the UK and Europe, for example. It's not a sprint weekend either, so it's back to the traditional format to wrap up the season. So that means FP1 will get the weekend started on Friday at 9:30 AM GMT, and FP2 will follow later that same day at 1 PM. Saturday's F1 action starts with FP3 at 10:30 AM with qualifying underway from 2 PM. And it is lights out for the race on Sunday at 1 PM, and once again, that is in UK time. Now, before I make my final predictions of 2024 and try to redeem my awful season, let's have a quick run through a few talking points ahead of the weekend at Yas Marina. So first up, there are a few things still up for grabs this weekend, including most notably the Constructors Championship title. McLaren are the favourites, but following a disappointing Sunday in Qatar, it's not done yet, and the door is still open for Ferrari to potentially swoop in and claim their first title since 2008. Yep, it really has been that long, and I felt every year of it. Either way, though, we're getting our first non-Red Bull or Mercedes Constructors champion since Brawn in 2009. McLaren sit top of the table with 640 points, with Ferrari 21 points behind on 619. And with 44 up for grabs this weekend, it is going to be tough, but it is more than doable for the Scuderia. The fight for 6th in standings is also on, although Pierre Gasly's excellent drive to P5 last time out has given Alpine a 5-point lead over Haas. That may not sound like a lot, but given that they will, unless someone pulls off a great result again, likely be fighting for tail-end points, that's a bigger mountain to climb than it appears. It's still game on, though. Not so much has got to be said for RB, though, as they are now 13 points adrift of Alpine, and so we'll need a chaotic race on Sunday to claw that back and stand any chance of picking up that P6 and taking the prize money that comes with it. Elsewhere, probably less interesting than the team's title for some, apart from the drivers who may bag a nice bonus, of course. Charles Leclerc is only 8 points behind Lando Norris and so has a shot at second in the championship standings. And there is actually just 1 point between Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly in the standings in the battle for a top 10 finish come the end of the season. As rumoured, or I suppose reported on Sunday in Qatar, it has now been officially confirmed that Esteban Ocon will not race for Alpine in Abu Dhabi, meaning his short dash to turn 1 at the weekend was his final moment with the Enstone team. They announced on Monday that Ocon has been released to allow him to take part in the end-of-season test with Haas, and that Jack Doohan, who will race using the number 61, will replace him for the season finale. The team went on to thank the Frenchman for his time with them and said he will, quote, remain part of the team's history, achieving the first win for Alpine in Formula 1. Ocon released a statement on social media earlier this week thanking the Alpine mechanics and engineers and said he leaves Alpine Renault with great memories and the pride of having secured podium finishes in Bahrain, Hungary and Brazil during his time with the team. He acknowledged, though, that the 2024 season hasn't been easy and that the second part of the season has been especially difficult for various reasons. However, he went on to say that he has no regrets, but added, quote, this is not how I wanted things to end. Doohan also on social media said he was stoked to be racing in Abu Dhabi this weekend and is grateful to Alpine for the trust and for giving him the opportunity, as well as saying he is grateful to Ocon, who he says he learned a great deal from over the last 2 years. And we'll be saying goodbye to a number of drivers this weekend, at least as full-time race drivers, and some may well return in the future, who knows, and of course some are swapping teams as well. The race at Yas Marina is Kevin Magnussen's last at Haas and likely in F1. The Dane, whose career kicked off with a podium on debut in 2014, will make his 185th F1 start in Abu Dhabi, and I'm sure will be hoping to add to his tally of 202 career points. Zhou Guanyu will also race for Sauber for the final time this weekend, and with no race seat confirmed elsewhere, he is rumoured to be on Ferrari's radar for a reserve role next season. Valtteri Bottas won't be on the grid in 2025 either, as he also leaves Sauber, but the Finn is hotly tipped to land a seat at Mercedes as a reserve for next year. He is, though, heavily linked with a potential return for 2026, with talks having already apparently been held with Cadillac. Watch this space on that one. With interest from Red Bull and Alpine said to have cooled, it looks as though this will be Franco Colapinto's last race for a while. He is expected to return to his role as reserve driver at Williams for 2025, but even though he has had a few tough weekends of late, he's impressed many with his speed and so may return one day. At time of recording, which is of course Wednesday afternoon, there has been no official word on what is happening regarding Sergio Perez's future, although the latest reports say he is likely to lose his seat and or leave F1 following the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but we will have to wait and see what happens in the coming days on that one. That means, though, that Liam Lawson has not yet been officially confirmed on the grid for next season, but it is expected he will be in either a Red Bull, he is the favourite to replace Perez, or an RB, depending of course on what happens with Checo. Lewis Hamilton will still be around in 2025, but he says farewell to Mercedes at the end of the year, and so the race at Yas Marina is his final one for the team he joined in 2013. An emotional weekend ahead for him and the Silver Arrows, I'm sure. Carlos Sainz will wave goodbye to Ferrari as he leaves for Williams, and Nico Hülkenberg will race for the final time with Haas before he makes the switch to Sauber for next season. Right then, time to make some predictions, and as always, please do not take these too seriously, they're just a little bit of fun, but if you do disagree with my picks, then you can let me know yours in the comments section down below. And last time, well, it could have been worse, but it could also have been much better. I was right on Norris for sprint pole. I'm giving myself half a point for Norris for the sprint win because, well, he basically did before letting his teammate through on the line to repay Brazil. And I also get half a point each for Verstappen and Piastri on the podium, but in the wrong positions. But yeah, the fact I'm having to bend the rules shows you how badly it has gone this year for me on the predictions front. So let's just move on and forget about the whole thing. This week, as has been the case for much of 2024, this is a really tough one to call. Max Verstappen cannot be written off, though, given his form at Yas Marina and his turnaround and performance in Qatar. But McLaren and Ferrari will be up there duking it out for the title, and Mercedes, as they proved last time out, have got the pace in that car to get themselves in the mix, but how hot it ends up being could well dictate that. But I am going to go with a McLaren versus Ferrari battle this weekend because this is a track that both teams are expected to go well at, in theory. And yes, of course, I'm hoping Ferrari can snatch the title come the checkered flag on Sunday. But there won't be any sour grapes from me if they don't do it, because it will also be nice to see McLaren end their drought as well. Anyway, let's get on with it. I suspect this video is long enough already. I'm going with a Charles Leclerc pole position on Saturday, but an Oscar Piastri win on Sunday with Leclerc finishing P2 and Max Verstappen taking the final step on the podium. I'll also predict that McLaren do wrap up the Constructors title come the end of the weekend and that Lando Norris just about clings on to P2 in the Drivers' Championship as well. As for top of the midfield, I'll go with Haas again, but also say that they will miss out on P6 in the standings by an agonisingly small margin, maybe even just a point or two. My bolder picks, which as ever are separate to my usual lot, are for a top 10 start for Jack Doohan on debut. Kevin Magnussen scores a point or two in his final race, and Valtteri Bottas gets off the mark as well with a top 10 finish on Sunday. A nice way to sign off at Sauber. That is it then for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix preview and for the previews for another year. But don't forget to let me know your thoughts and your predictions ahead of the weekend in the comment section down below. Now, I will be back on Saturday with the qualifying watch-along, Sunday with the race watch-along, and of course, I'll be live with Stuart to wrap up the weekend with the usual race reaction shortly after the race, obviously. In the meantime, though, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like, because it really does help to give the channel a little bit of a boost, and consider subscribing so you don't miss any future videos or streams. Plenty to come over the winter. I'm not disappearing. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.